Hello, this is DrPaulCottrell, and I am recording this on January 22nd. We're going to go over some videos on Davos and how the media is covering Davos and any breaking news that is taking place in terms of the markets. As I'm recording, the market is already open in New York, and we have the S&P 500 trading at 6,930. So if you took my advice on the previous videos I mentioned, when Trump was starting to talk about the tariffs due to Greenland, I said to buy the market, you would have made money. VIX is now in the 15s with a 15 handle. During that tariff little spat with Europe, it went as high as in the 20, around 20, 21. Euro is trading at 1.17. Oil is trading at 59.64. Bitcoin is trading at 89,000. Japanese yen is trading at 158.56, and the natural gas is trading at 5.452. If you've been paying attention to me, you would have made money in natural gas. Now, the reason why it popped up is because of this cold spell that's happening in the United States throughout this week and part of next week. I suspect that we will have a precipitous drop in futures for natural gas. So what I did was I closed out my long position, made money. If you paid attention, you would have made money too. And now I'm shorting it. All right. And I'm just waiting it out until the weather starts to warm up, which it will, and there will be a rapid decline in natural gas. All right. So right now, 7,000 for the S&P 500 is a major resistance level. All right. So we're going to be testing it. We're going to be waiting. We're going to start hearing positive news with earnings, and then it'll pop up, and 7,000 will become the floor, a support level. So right now, 7,000 for the S&P 500. Now, in terms of natural gas, it's trading at 5.48 right now. It could continue to go up throughout this week and part of next week, but I suspect that once it starts to warm, it will be a rapid decline. It'll go from, it might even hit 6, but it'll go from 5.5 or 6 to 3.5 rapidly. So, okay, now oil, that's trading at 50 with a 59 handle. With the oil markets, in terms of supply, the Venezuelan issue isn't going to really affect supply. If we hit Iran, which we may be soon, oil will spike. If we don't, oil will start to drift down because of the supply and start trading at about 50, get closer to 56 handle. So oil trade range, assuming no hit to Iran by the United States, no retaliatory strikes by the United States due to what the Ayatollah is doing to its people with the protests. If we don't strike, the trading range is going to be about 56 to about 60, maybe 61. All right, so we're at 59. It's a little bit at the higher range for that trading, assuming that we don't hit. If we do hit, we'll probably see a $4 spike. All right, so if we hit today, we'll probably see is probably oil at about 63, 64. So just keep in mind, it's heavily predicated on what happens with Iran. All right, with that said, let's plug some products. Please help support the work that I do. All these videos are for free, and I'm telling you how to make money and how to improve your health. All right? If you pay attention, you're going to be able to improve your endocrine system, your immune system, slow down the aging process, help with your other bodily systems. Please go to my store and get the structural nanosilver gels that I have. I have it in the tube form or in the quick dispenser form. You use them the same way. All right? You can apply them topically, and it'll help to improve the health of your skin. You can do that daily. You can put it on a cut, an abrasion, or a minor burn. It'll help to heal it quicker. If you're not feeling well or someone around you is not feeling well, put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your eyes, around your ears. Lightly coat your nostrils. It'll stay active for 5.5 hours, and it'll help to neutralize. Very high quality, so please go to my store and get either the tube form or the quick dispenser form. I also have structural nail silver toothpaste. Helps to neutralize, improve your oral cavity, reduce plaque, has no fluoride. It's a very high quality toothpaste. And when you use this and you're neutralizing, you're improving your oral cavity, you're also helping your cardiovascular health, because a lot of people don't realize the bacteria in your oral cavity can get into your bloodstream and start forming plaque and causing problems with your valves in your heart. So you don't want that. You want to have good oral hygiene, neutralize. You can do that with the structural nano silver toothpaste that I have. This is very high quality, way better than anything that you're buying at the grocery store. And pain relief for your joints, muscles. All right, if you've pulled a muscle or you have a bruise or you have joint pain, use super strong relief. This will work within about 30 seconds. You apply it topically to the area and you will reduce the pain, if not eliminate it. This will also help with headaches. Rub it in your shoulders and the muscles in your neck, and also your temples and your forehead, and it'll help to reduce the headache. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the super strong relief. Very high quality. It's a new product on my store. Use discount 5 on any order. Discount 5, all caps, discount and the number 5. You get $5 off. All right, with that said, let's go to Bloomberg.
Gotta talk crypto.
From the magazine that helps global leaders stay ahead.
The conversation around your company.
Bringing you insight on the people, companies, and trends shaping today's complex economy.
Planning very big
A
things.
new level of premium.
Plus global business, finance, and tech news as it happens.
The floodgates of innovation are going to open up.
Can't fake fashion, you are.
Bloomberg Business Week Daily, only on Bloomberg. The multi-trillion-dollar industry. We'll show you what's happening in ETFs like no one else. ETF IQ, only on Bloomberg.
Middle East and Africa. Vibrant resources and high yield investment opportunities abound. Join me on Horizons Middle East and Africa for the stories, newsmakers, and insight from this exciting region. Now weekday, only on Bloomberg.
Know how the market day started.
Find out how it finishes.
Public markets to private markets.
From the micro to the macro.
Covering retail, entertainment, the business of sports.
The supply chains, trade policy, how it all is impacting the U.S. equity market as we drive to the closing bell at 4 p.m.
A holistic approach to covering financial markets.
If it matters to your life, we're covering it. I'm Katie Grantham,
And I'm Romaine Boston, and this is The Close.
live every weekday.
Only on Bloomberg. Context changes everything.
Let's hear from the sell side. Time now for your top calls. So the analysts are upgrading and downgrading. First up, KeyBank Capital Markets is downgrading Crocs. They cite weak visibility into demand and a lack of near-term drivers. They say valuation looks attractive, but KeyBank is staying cautious until there's clear evidence that demand is stabilizing. Crocs shares are still up 0.7%. I guess people don't want foam on their feet. Next up, BNP Paribas, they upgrade on semiconductor, pointing to improving conditions that suggest stabilization is underway. They still, though, are cautious on the outlook for automotive demand and rising competition in power semiconductors. Shares up about 1.2%. Finally, TD Cowen, they upgrade Capri Holdings to buy, citing better aligned pricing and more relevant styles that should support demand. The accessible luxury company sees significant margin recovery ahead and ongoing improvements at Michael Kors. So those shares up just under 3%. Matt,
Do you own a pair of Crocs?
I thought you were going to say Michael Kors. No, I do not own a pair. I have kind of thought about it, but for the sartorial irony of wearing them, not because like I actually want them, you know?
Yeah, when they went public, which was now, 10 years ago or maybe 15, I went out and got a pair of camouflaged, like they were special edition for
Right.
that duck hunting show, the family with all the
Yeah.
long beards,
Did a lot of people make jokes of like, Matt, I can't see your feet, where have they gone?
No, but that is hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, coming up, GE Aerospace's outlook tops estimates as it overlooks concerns around travel and the economy, raises its EPS forecast for 2026, and yet investors are selling the shares today. I will ask Matthew Griffin why. Next, this is Bloomberg Open Interest.
All right, what I want to do is go to the Davos about agriculture. This forum, the open forum, was about agricultural evolution. So let's listen into that. But before we do, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the probiotics. It's really important to have a good gut biome. Good health starts at the gut. I have a veggie cap version, which is easy to take, and a powdered version. I take the powdered version because I take all these different powders like the collagen and the lignans and the probiotic, gladiator barley, the boomer boost. So I have a lot of different powders too that you can purchase. But get the probiotics, either one. Take it every day. This will help with your gut biome, allow you to absorb your nutrients, improve your metabolism, help the health of your gut, bring down inflammation, reduce leaky gut syndrome, help with sleep. By having good sleep, you're going to improve your energy levels, you're going to improve your memory, you're going to be able to concentrate, get rid of that brain fog. And over time, what's going to happen is that you're going to actually improve your dendritic connections between your neurons because you're sleeping better, you're detoxifying your central nervous system with a good gut biome because you're sleeping better, and you're consolidating memory. So you'll have better brain function with a good gut biome. A lot of people don't realize that. Your skin will improve, the health of your hair and your nails will improve. Also, your metabolism and the communication between your gut and your liver. So please go to my store and get the probiotics. Super important to take a probiotic and stack it with the multivitamin. This is a multivitamin that's easy to digest, and it has the multivitamins that you need for proper enzymatic activity. So your cells perform better, your metabolism performs better, and you're slowing down the aging process. So please go to my store, get the complete multivitamin, stack it with either version of the probiotic. That's the foundation of my anti-aging protocol. And then there's 4 pillars. I'll talk about the first pillar right now. On top of that foundation, the first pillar is to boost up your innate immune system. You can do that with Cleanse, Max 14 or Max 35 on my store. Max 35 is 35 parts per million. Max 14 is 14 parts per million. And Cleanse is 30 parts per million. They're all at different price points. But what it does is it helps to boost up your immune system and improves your oral cavity. So you take a teaspoon a day, swish it in your mouth, and gargle about 20-30 seconds, and then swallow. What this will do is improve the health of your oral cavity and your oral pharynx, maintain your mucosal barrier, and help the health of your epithelial cells. This is super important. It will also help to neutralize. So not just improving your immune system and the health of your oral cavity, but because it's neutralizing, you're also helping your cardiovascular health and your valvular health. So please go to my store and get the Cleanse, Max 35 or Max 14. That's the first pillar on top of that foundation of the probiotics and the multivitamin. All right, with that, let's listen into Davos. Wish they wouldn't stop wasting time on this graphics. Okay, here we go.
Been kind to them. I know mine has. I definitely have felt a different energy this year. This is only my third one. So let's hope that this panel reinvigorates that for some of the people in this room. Look, we're here to talk about agricultural revolution. But in truth, what we're really going to be talking about is whether the world can remain stable, equitable, and fed in the decades ahead. So I'm here today wearing two hats. I am a UN Goodwill Ambassador for the International Fund for Agricultural Development. And I'm also someone who believes that food systems are no longer a sectoral issue. They are now a defining economic, climate, and geopolitical issue. It is, in fact, I believe, the issue of our time. And if you don't know too much about IFAD works with rural people at the first mile across the global south. Rural people who are working hard, farming the ingredients that we know and love, feeding a large population of the world. In fact, I think about 70%, but also protecting the Earth's resilience through things like biodiversity. And their knowledge of nature is something that IFAD recognizes as a tool. In fact, IFAD doesn't just see them at the margins of the problem. They are at the center of the problem. They are also the solution. And we have a really exciting panel today. As you can see, we have very cool guests with us that I feel very humbled and honored to introduce. We have Alice Rueza, who's the president of the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, which is AGRA, as you might know it as. Alice is the president of the Alliance for the Green Revolution, but she also works closely with smallholder farmers and governments to strengthen food security, resilience, and nutrition across the continent. And we can just give a round of applause for Alice. We also have Ermin Betten, who's the Chief Sustainability and Corporate Affairs Officer of Flora Food Group in the Netherlands. He is guiding a global organization operating in more than 100 countries. Flora Food Group has undergone successful transformation to become a culinary-driven company anchored in a clear purpose, culinary essentials for better food. Please, a round of applause. We also have Miyosamu Manzo. She's a global shaper of Kaduna Hub and Farm Matrix in Nigeria. She is working at the intersection of agriculture, technology, and youth-led innovation in rural communities. Round of applause, please. Christian Früdiger, who's the Vice Director General, Head of Thematic Cooperation, Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, SDC. And Christian is leading thematic cooperation, focusing on science, innovation, and partnerships to support sustainable development globally. Thank you, Christian. And we also have Sam Cass, who's a partner at Acre Venture Partners USA. He's also a young global leader. Sam is working on culture, public health, sustainable investment from farms all the way to our plates. He's an absolutely amazing chef. He also recently published a new book called The Last Supper, which looks at how today's food choices are shaping health, climate, and future. And I'm going to start with yourself, Alice. Oh, can I get a round of applause for something? How did I do that to you, Sam? Yeah. Me and Sam have a bit of a... Alice, can I please start with yourself? I'd love to ask you, from your work with smallholder farmers, how are climate shocks and market pressures affecting food security today?
Thank you very much for that question. And I'm pleased to be here. This is my first Davos, and I'm looking forward to coming back. So climate shocks have such a domino effect. You know, they are not just one happening. When one climate shock happens, it triggers hunger, water scarcity, economic breakdown, and long-term development reversals. And I'll give you an example. In 2023-24, we had El Nino. El Nino is a drought that occurred in Southern Africa. In Zambia, maize production dropped by 53%. 1 million hectares affected. Flooding in West Africa, same time, destroyed harvests. Food prices go higher. And the food becomes unaffordable for families who spend at least 60 to 70% of their income on food. And then water scarcity, families walking hours for water, rising waterborne diseases, malnutrition, energy collapse because we have hydropower energy. So really when we have one issue in climate, it affects everybody. So I want to give you an example from a place called Kaduna where she's from, in Nigeria. And it's known for dry spells and erratic rainfalls and weak extension systems. And this farmer called Amina, the 34-year-old farmer, who had never farmed rice independently due to cost, risk, and social barriers. We at AGRA worked with the state authorities and system actors to address this constraint. Through our support, Amina accessed $400 worth of inputs and bundled with advisory services. She received help from our village-based advisors who are extension systems on soil health, on climate adaptation, and on seed use. And as a result, someone who had never farmed now had 14 bags of rice from half a hectare, doubling historical yields. She got some income stability, and her experience reflects really a broader shift that we are doing. That when you support women, when you support people like this, they thrive.
Well, then interesting. I think I know what the answer that you're going to give to this question is. What do you think is the biggest investment that we can have? What has the biggest impact and return in rural resilience?
You know, I was going to say women. I was going to say women. But actually, I'm going to talk about school feeding. Because
water. They need to make sure that they secure their water supply. If you're a coastal nation and you have issues with fresh water, desalinization, but water, develop water infrastructure.
Think about it. Africa is got at least 70% of its population under the age of 22. We are the only continent that is going to have a population growth, and therefore we have a demographic dividend. We can provide the world with labor, with skilled labor. But the only way to do that is if we make sure that our children are feeding on healthy food. And so with school feeding, you're addressing high malnutrition, you're addressing stunting levels, you're addressing you know that those children will grow and they'll become the labor force of the future. And we have several examples which I can share around what we've done in Kenya, Tanzania, and Malawi, where we've directly intervened in school feeding programs by providing biofortified crops like maize, like high iron beans, delivering through those school meals so that the children are getting more efficient, more nutritious food.
No, I think that's really important. I actually remember going on a field visit early on and speaking to the community about why the children had stopped going to school. And it was because they didn't have school meals at that school. It is absolutely crucial. I agree.
It has been a game changer because even for the children who don't go to school, who live near the school, when that bell rings, everybody eats. It's so special.
No, it is special. Thank you for that. Herman, if I can then jump to you, I actually want to ask, from a global supply chain perspective, how are we going to align consumer preferences with farmers and create food systems that are affordable, but I think also accessible?
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Thanks for having me here. It's not my first Davos. It's my 17th, but it is my first panel. I managed to be here for so many years and not be on a panel, but it's great.
This is your first panel?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's like,
are you surprised?
I didn't know. Yeah.
So I was not expecting a lot of response to this question. Anyway, to come back, I represent Flora Food Group, and we are more than 150 years old. We were founded somewhere in the 19th century. The company at least started, to address a malnutrition issue in Europe by inventing an alternative to butter, and we've always looked at people first. So I also believe in many discussions we've had in Davos. I've participated in many discussions, not sitting on the panel. We always talk about from farm to fork. That's been a staple, no pun intended, in these conversations. I also like to look at the other way around. So start with the fork and work your way back to the farm, because food really can only contribute to something if it's actually being consumed. So that's why we start with the consumer. We look at their needs, and then we work our way back in the value chain. Our products are spreads, creams, liquids. These are not products that are intended for use or consumption in isolation. Right? We're not an ice cream manufacturer. If you come home, you want to watch a Netflix movie, you're not going to walk to the fridge, get a tub of crunchy crock and empty it. That's not, what our book's about. You could, but I would not recommend. Our approach is to make better food, to make meals as a cooking ingredient. And because our products are mostly about fat, and especially about unsaturated fat, it also helps you to absorb these vitamins in school feedings and whatnot. So we started already there, but since that, our products are not meant to be consumed in isolation, it also means that change and progress is not done by just us. We collaborate throughout the supply chain. We start with the farmer, all the way through the retailer where the people who buy our products go to make sure that indeed it is first and foremost needs to be tasty. If it's not tasty, people won't buy it. And then it needs to be affordable, and of course it needs to be nutritious and preferably natural as well. If it all meets these four components, and by the way, more sustainable is another one, but it's not something that consumers immediately will pay more money for. Nevertheless, it is important, and that's also why we look at the carbon impact of our products.
And would you consider that inclusive innovation?
We try to, and especially when we work with farmers, like we buy canola, for instance, in East Africa. We work with farmers there on the ground to make sure that, first of all, they get a fair price, but second of all, that they are able to invest in their future and also make sure that their farm and their land stay resilient. So we work with various projects on, what some people call regenerative agriculture. I prefer to say, a more sustainable way of farming to ensure that, those crops are available and affordable, but also provide a good income for the farmer. That's indeed where it starts with, but it should go all the way to the place, because also the average family in Europe, for instance, is 80 to 100 euros a week to spend on food for a family of 4. That's not a lot of money. So our audience are hardworking moms and dads in all these countries that also don't have a lot of money to buy. So it's all trade-offs and balances, but I think if you work together, it can be managed.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting what you said about, consumers maybe not necessarily picking out the sustainable item at first, but how do you approach the education on that? Are you educating your consumers on that?
We are educating indirectly. So first, we've built a large network of nutritionists. We started in North America. We're expanding this to Europe to educate them on the role of fats in a diet. We all were grown up with the idea that fats are bad for you. Maybe some fats, like trans fat, are really bad for you. They clog your arteries. But there are other fats, the unsaturated fat or the polyunsaturated fats like omega-3, omega-6, that you need for health development. You just discussed for kids to reach their full potential. Right? If you do not have an omega-3 shortage as you grow up, you will achieve a much higher IQ. It can be 3-4% points in IQ. That means the difference between someone reaching its full potential or not.
As a business owner, of someone who has a brand that connects, or tries to maintain a responsible supply chain, and in beauty, that's particularly difficult. It's not something that's spoken about. But in food, I would have thought people would have that relation more. And Sam, I'm wondering, do you find that sorry, I'm going a bit rogue here, if you don't mind. I'm genuinely curious.
Let's do it.
When people are at your dinners learning about the food, do they think green beans on my plate, there's a farmer in Kenya that farmed these, and do they make the connection to people? Because I think it's often lost.
Well, first of all, hi everybody. How you guys doing? Good. Thank you guys for coming. I think for the average, consumer, I think the answer to that still is no. I think we take our food for granted mostly, certainly in the Western world. I think we assume we'll always have a bounty of food to eat and don't really make the connection that where it comes from, the soil that it's grown in, the resources it takes, and all of the hard work and risk, the livelihoods and risk that is farmers are taking on every day to ensure.
That's another thing. Water infrastructure, that's really important, and having a better relationship with the farmers in the banking industry so they can finance to sow the seeds, grow the crops, and sell them in a market. So building up trading of these commodities, futures market, having the water infrastructure, and having a more have a stronger relationship between the microfinancing of these farmers to be able to grow their crops.
Sustenance. And I think the lack of that connection is actually part of is one of the cornerstones of why we are in such a tough space.
I agree.
Because if you don't appreciate that and have an understanding about what values we should be supporting, bad outcomes start to happen, both from an environmental standpoint, which we will get into more, but also a health standpoint. And it's that detachment that is leading to a lot of these, dire health outcomes that we're seeing around the planet.
Yeah, and actually that's one of the reasons I got into the climate work that I do, through the way of people, because I care about people. And if we're not protecting the earth for people, what are we protecting it for?
Well,
it's definitely not just the global north, right? And that's a perfect segue actually to yourself, if you don't mind, Nifam. I'd love to ask you, because you're working with young people in rural areas, what are they experiencing right now? I think we think of climate shocks as something that's happening way in the future, where, I was in Zambia a couple of years ago driving across some fields, asking my driver, oh, had they done some burning here? And he turned around and said, no, it just didn't rain this year. The rain season didn't come. So what are people experiencing right now, particularly young people, but also, I guess, what's shaping their economic choices around agriculture?
Thank you so much. And hello, everyone. I always like to talk about young people because I feel like they push them by the corner. But yeah, it's that young people are not really scared in rural communities about agriculture or what the economic value looks for them. But what they struggle with are like the risk, the uncertainty, and the invisibility that comes with it. About 58% of Nigerians are like young people who are between the age of 15 to 35 years old. And just put it out there, in Nigeria, over 230 million people, and we are a fast-growing population with young people at the center of it. And most of these young people live in rural communities. I live in Kaduna that have been spotlighted now, and I'm so excited that, there's a farmer from Kaduna that have been noticed here in Davos. Thank you. I brought her story to Davos. Yeah, thank you. But there's still a lot of young people who are very, very passionate about agriculture, but they are not being spotlighted as much. They're not getting the right support that they should get. And I always say I am a story of possibilities. I'm here because people put a bet on me as a young person who is working around their cultural solutions. Just to put it out there, one of the work that we do at Farmatrix Agro is to support women and young people by training them on climate smart agriculture, resilient agriculture, providing them with input financing like fertilizers, seeds, and pesticides, and also connecting them to profitable markets. For us, I see agriculture as a business, right? But for young people, tech is like everywhere right now. People want something that is more profitable for them economically, which is still very okay. So they need more incentives to come into the agriculture.
They need to find it sexy.
Yeah, they need to find it sexy. And people always say, I do not really fancy that because it doesn't have to be all fancy and sexy, because it's a real value to the economy. We have all eaten today, most likely to, right? And it takes at least 4 farmers to put food on your table. And the young people are the strongest workforce now to make that happen. So we need to empower them. We need to de-risk them. We need to make them know that this is profitable to the economy. So they are not going to be given aids and all that and just come as a farmer, as a young person, make it look all good and sexy, however, knowing that you have value that you're bringing on the table.
But tech is important to that because it's profit at the end of the day. You're right. It's not just whether it's appealing or not. It's, am I going to make money doing this? And if we can increase yields, increase profit through tech, which, you're already seeing AI do that in agriculture, then it's going to make sense for young people to find it attractive.
Yeah, so we work, most of my staff, I'm under 30, and most of the young people.
A round of applause.
Most of my staff, I'm the co-founder. My co-founder is also a young person, and we have about 7 people who are young people working in my team. And we use technology, so we're AI driven. We have a platform that we're using on onboarding our smallholder farmers who are over 8,000 at the moment, and we are scaling to 20,000. Mostly women and young people in northern Nigeria, right? And one of the things that we bring as incentives for these young people are We are young people building for young people, right? So let's show them what is possible using technology, using on the ground knowledge. If you've studied, my background is in computer science, by the way, but I don't code. I don't write any line of code. My co-founder does that. But yes. So it's that you can study computer science, you can be an engineer, but you can still come into the food system space, right? Because the value chain is very big and broad. So young people have the space in between to come in.
That's amazing. And how do you see them, or how do you see a dignified future for you in agriculture?
I think it's just empowering young people.
I think in terms of AI in agriculture, understanding using some telemetry of the ground in terms of nutrients and needs for water or areas that are overwatered, and being able to target on the farm where you should put your nutrients, where you should put the water. That makes a lot of sense. But I think focusing on water infrastructure, desalination, building reservoirs, having a more robust futures market and selling those commodities, and having a better relationship between the farmers and the banking industry, maybe even some nonprofits with helping with microfinancing. That will solve a lot of the problems. A lot of the problems. It's just old-fashioned, how do you grow some corn or you grow some soybeans or whatever you're growing, and how do you get it to market? And how do you make sure you have high yield? So you have to have better seed. You have to have better soil. You have to have better nutrients. You have to have better fertilizers. You have to have water supply. It's very simple. You have to have laws, plus, maybe some regulation in terms of preventing slash and burn farming, which is terrible.
See the value. We have a saying in Nigeria that you're the future of tomorrow. The young people are the future of tomorrow. And we always laugh about it and say, we are here now. It's not about tomorrow. We need to fix it now, right? Yeah. Today, it's today. So it's not just tomorrow. So it's to incentivize young people to ensure that they see a future. I've seen statistics where young people now jump from sector to sector. Within 3 years, they've jumped about 3 roles, other than the older generations that I really do admire, that stay in a particular role for like 20 years, 50 years, putting their heart into something. Yeah. But that's because I think they saw like an incentive, they saw a future there. So if we can provide those features for them in agriculture, showing what is possible, having people like Agra, or other funders or investors, investing in young people, investing in technology in agriculture, a lot of young people would want to stay, because I have a lot of friends across the continent who are building amazing solutions across the agricultural value chain, and they're all young people, and they want to be here for a long time.
Awesome. And I think that doesn't get showcased enough, the innovation that is across the system. And maybe it's because it's not a lot to see, but there's a lot of young people doing things like you're doing, especially with mobile technology. So we just need to harness that.
Yeah, and on the continent, it's particularly interesting. I mean, you see all these facts about 10 million people entering the workforce under 18 every year. It's the only continent with a growing population. I mean, the numbers will be there. It's you can't avoid it, right? Christian, if I can turn to you for a second, I really want to ask you, how do farmer economics and public investment intersect? But also, where are their biggest gaps?
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. And well, I've been up here a few times, and I lost count of the panels.
Sorry,
a little shade.
Competitive.
But I'm really happy. The subtitle to this event is "Agriculture is Back," and I'm really glad to hear that agriculture is back and is being discussed. Yeah. And it's also being discussed from a young people perspective. Because the fact is that only 1 in 20 farmers worldwide are under 35. And then you look at sub-Saharan Africa, and you see that 70-80% of the jobs are still in agriculture.
I mean, in terms of the United States, livestock, farming, that's big industry. I mean, it's really big industry. If you have a farm that's producing a decent amount, it's multiple millions of dollars in terms of an operation. It's pretty serious. But the problem comes in is that if there's an oversupply, or if the price collapses, or if you have a bad yield one year or whatever, so there's a lot of volatility in it. It's not, it's not all bed of roses in terms of running a farm, but there's some serious cash in farming. Plus, you have to take out loans, and you have to deal with markets. I mean, in that industry, it covers everything: mechanical, agricultural, biology, financing, dynamic markets. It's a pretty intense industry.
Where young people are going. So, who will be growing the food of the future? Who will be growing the cash crops of the future? So if we come back to your question, farmers are really good economists. They're really good. And like all investors, public or private, they want to make a decent return and a decent living. It's just, and that there we have the obstacles, that they have so many issues to deal with. Obstacles ranging from climate change to really short-term needs, that it's difficult for them to invest in the longer term. So some of the big gaps, and one of those which is really often neglected, but one of the major ones, is land tenure. If farmers don't own the land or have no land security, they're not going to invest. They just try to sort of make a living. And when investments from outside are coming, or from governments, so public or private investments, they have to be done responsibly in a way that does not affect the land tenure of the farmers and actually the capability of the farmers to produce. There are guidelines of the World Committee on Food Security on all this. Unfortunately, they're not really applied when investments are done. So we have with the Swiss Development Agency, a big project in the Mekong River Delta, which is basically on land governance and really trying to sort these things out. Then another area, you said innovation, research and development, R&D. Science matters and it helps, but it's what we would call slow magic. And slow magic is really difficult to do in a high-paced time. So there are a few organizations that do that, like the CGIAR, do the longer-term research and then roll it out. So for us, public donors, but I would also encourage private donors.
What's even interesting is that if you look at the biologists improving soy sauce production or sake production, fermenting rice, fermenting soybeans, that industry in Japan is really high tech. It sounds like something so simple, but dealing with certain molds, strains that work better in different environments, different, pH levels, very high tech, just soy sauce. And so you get into the, if you're in the cheese market, or if you're in, other fermenting markets, or the wine industry, these are really high tech. All right. If a component is high tech. Now, this is what's interesting about these types of industries. It has 1 foot in high tech, and it has 1 foot in an old world. You have to grow it, and you have to ferment it, and you have to harvest, and there's a relationship between the production and the land. But then to have higher yields and to have a more efficient process, a higher quality, more consistent, that is in the realm of biology. And science and research. So these industries, if you really want to get into, you can have a very high level degree, master's, PhD level, and be working in agriculture, working in fermenting, working in the wine industry or the cheese industry, and you'd be making a lot of money because they need this understanding of how to improve the yields, how to reduce the susceptibility of certain crops to failing in the field because of either lack of water or lack of nutrients or insects or whatever, right? So this industry, the agricultural industry, not just in Africa but everywhere in the world, is starting to become higher tech. Genomics, epigenetics, proteomics, culturing, mold culturing, bacterial culturing. These are all like really high-tech stuff. It's not just put a seed in the ground and just grow it, right? And then to try to have it more natural and more organic. But I think the Japanese do it the best, where they blend the old style and try to keep to that, and also have a very strong scientific side to it.
Slow magic. Because the slow magic is going to be needed very fast. If you look at South Asia, wheat is reaching a tipping point. It cannot prosper at 45 centigrade. So solutions have to be found really quickly. And then the last point is this whole question on food crops versus cash crops. Yes, food needs to be grown, but farmers need to make a living.
So AI can be used to try to improve certain proteins that are being produced within the crop, or improve the structure of the DNA. People don't realize that you don't just code for proteins. It's also the structure of the genome to make it more stable or less stable, whatever you want to try to do here, right? Either for the bacteria, for the molds, or for the actual genome of the crop. Maybe changing the genome in such a way where it can use phosphate better or nitrates. But the point I'm making is that you can use these AI systems to help speed this process along. While back in the olden days, it was almost by accident. All right, there was some sort of mutation that took place on the field. You know, for example, certain vintages of certain grapes work better in certain climates, certain soils, and produce certain types of wine. Well, that was all based on almost accident and some sort of experimentation that took centuries. Well, you can speed that up using AI and modeling in AlphaFold and doing docking in HadDoc and understanding what you need to change, and then you confirm that in the laboratory. But the point here is that you can use AI to speed this up. All right. On top of using AI in robotics to automate the actual field, or using AI to improve when you should apply fertilizer, when is the best time to actually put seed in the ground, when's the opportune moment to harvest, by having more telemetry that's going on with the crops, with the soil, with the humidity and the moisture and all these different variables that are needed, that are important for crop yield. Like, you may have, let's say, 1,000 acres, but it's not necessarily true that 1,000 acres because of changes in topology, changes in soil composition, changes in absorption of water. It's not necessarily true that you seed the whole 1,000 acres at the same time. You may want to stagger it. Maybe in one sector you do it, and then you wait another week for another sector. But that telemetry that's coming from AI to tell you where's the best moment or place to actually seed or to harvest. It's not necessarily true the whole 1,000 acres is harvested at the same time. Let's say it's the same crop. It may be better to harvest in some sectors 1 or 2 weeks before, or 1 or 2 weeks later. So you get this higher fidelity and higher yield by using AI and having more of a smart farm.
And there is one big issue there, and I keep on coming across this in many places in sub-Saharan Africa, that everybody is basically working for export, where the real issue is local production, local processing for local markets, for local consumption, and nutritious consumption. And when you sort of look at it more closely, nobody's investing in nutrition in sub-Saharan Africa. So we have together with GAIN a fund, a debt fund. So it's an open-ended debt fund, which is called N3F, so Nutritious Food Financing Facility, that tries to do exactly that. But if you look for other nutrition investment funds, they just don't exist. So anybody who is interested in that, please have a look. And there's a lot of space there.
I also think what you said about land is particularly interesting for societies that have issues around land rights for women, for instance. And it just goes to show that a unique tailored approach needs to happen at the community level per community. There might not be a one-size-fits-all solution. But also maybe one of the challenges is that, when food systems, when there's a climate shock or conflict, is when we start looking at them as an economic or a political issue, but really it's an ongoing economic issue, right? Mm-hmm. We hear about public-private partnerships all the time. I wonder what you think their greatest value is.
I'd say two points. The first is really identifying roadblocks to investment and then remove them. So when you basically get the public, the private actors together, the farmers who are on the ground, the women who actually do the farming, because that's the reality is that the majority of the farmers, what it is, actually who are actually doing this are women, and then look at roadblocks, and that can really help very fast. For example, if you look at irrigation protocols, very often you can irrigate way less and have a much better yield. Mm-hmm. But there you need an intervention at the local national government level in agricultural schools, and you basically have to help the farmers change the practice, because you have to demonstrate, because they won't invest in the long term, so you have to demonstrate, look, this actually works, and then they will come with you or help them with investment.
Let me just interject. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the supplements that will help to slow down your aging process and boost up your immune system and help with brain function and cardiovascular health. All right? Clarity Factor, very powerful neurostack. It's going to get rid of brain fog, allow you to concentrate, improve your memory, improve your cognition. Take this every day, drink it with filtered water, and over time, what this is going to do is improve the connections between your neurons. You're going to think faster and you're going to have better memory. This gets rid of that brain fog and allows you to concentrate. This is very powerful. Take it every day. Super important. And with better brain function, you're going to have more vitality. Olive leaf extract, dual purpose. It's going to help boost up your immune system and help with your cardiovascular system. Brings down inflammation and helps you to control your lipid profile. Vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 will help with gene expression. It's a gene expression cofactor. It also helps to get rid of cells that are infected. So it's important to take. If you need to get those cells to go into apoptosis. Super important during the winter season. Vitamin D3 helps with bone density. It helps to absorb calcium. And when you're doing resistance training, it's going to help to deposit that calcium. So you have better bone density. And the dual purpose deodorants that I have for males or for females, you can get it in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree, or in citrus. It's made from essential oils from the Himalayas, all natural, no aluminum, no baking soda, and guess what? It's dual purpose. You use it as a daily deodorant, and it helps to detoxify your body. And when you detoxify your body regularly, like with a deodorant, you're improving your immune system and endocrine system. You can't get a better deodorant. This is very high quality. Please go to my store and get the deodorants. All right.
So the other big area for public-private partnerships is really catalyze, is de-risk, catalyze investment, catalyze investments into local markets, access to finance. For the moment you get over the microfinance piece, it's close to impossible. And this is also why there is no local or very little local processing, because for small and medium-sized enterprises that transform the food you and your friends grow, they just cannot grow. They cannot access finance. They have to access finance at commercial rates, which basically ruins them before they get in there.
Right. No, that's a great way to put it.
Public finance is good. It de-risks. It's the one that can do that. It's the only one that can play that role, because private finance will always look for a return. Yeah. So if we can convince our governments and other public,
this is the wrong attitude.
Remove some
this
of
is the wrong attitude. For it to be sustainable, it has to be profitable. So you got to make it profitable. So thing is that you have to, maybe they need to get into scale. Maybe you can't have these super small farms. You need to have them consolidate. But the thing is that if you have the assumption that it's that you finance, you buy the seed and you finance, and there's no return, then you're not going to really have a sustainable economy. I mean, look at the United States, all right? We have a sustainable agricultural industry because there's a futures market, there's financing with the farmers, and there's some subsidies with the government. Now, the way to handle Africa and some of these smaller farms is, in terms of financing, is that they have to buy the seed. All right. So if they have to buy the seed and they don't have the capital, then they have to take out the loan. All right. Maybe the government can help support underwriting the loan. All right. Or the government has a seed bank where they provide that seed to the farmers. All right. And then they have to resupply the seed from the crops that they grow. All right. So maybe there's a 1-for-1 or a 25% resupplying or whatever. That's one method to do it. There's microfinancing, where you have, NGOs that have private philanthropy coming in to help with the microfinancing to help them to get started. Maybe they can help underwrite some of the loans, but you have to have a robust futures market where the crops that they grow are sold, and you need to have a robust financing market through the banks, maybe help with underwriting from NGOs and governments, maybe a little bit of financing in seed banks. But the thing is that to assume that there's not going to be some sort of profit generated by the finance industry loaning to the farmer, then it's a non-starter, because that means is you just want something for nothing. You want something for nothing. That's really basically what it is. Well, if you want something for nothing, then whatever you grow, create the seed that you need. So you grow crops, and then you have, you have to regenerate. You set aside some of your crops for sale, And the other part of the crops are your seed. And then you are self-sufficient that way. Maybe to become self-sufficient, you may need a little bit of government help, maybe microfinancing, NGO help, and the banking industry. But for this to reach scale, you have to model it similar to what's going on in the United States. Got to have this idea of something for nothing is not going to work. They got to. It's almost they have to have an entrepreneurial take risk kind of philosophy, and not all farmers are going to succeed. And when they don't succeed, then you'll have these consolidations that take place, and then these larger farms will be able to reach scale. Now, you want to prevent big ag coming in and pushing out the little farmer, and you can do that through regulation. But something for nothing is the wrong way, is the wrong attitude. They have to build a futures market, and they have to build a agricultural banking market. Now, a lot of small banks in the United States, regional banks, they were for farmers. So this is not, there's already a roadmap on how to do this. But if some farmer thinks they're going to get a freebie if they need a loan, that's not going to work. That's not going to work.
So the private sector can invest it with,
Right. Yeah.
the system will work, yes.
Sam, can I jump to you?
Please.
I'd love to from a care perspective, you know, and when we're looking at the plate backwards, which ingredients or production systems would you say are the most strain? But I think the reason I'm really asking you that is why should people care?
Yeah. You know, I think a lot of times we hear the words climate change, and that doesn't necessarily sound so bad. Or 2 degrees warming. You know, I'm from Chicago. That sounds, or
Good.
being here, that sounds like a good thing. I'm like, let's warm it up. Can we do 5 degrees? And I don't think we've done a good job at helping people understand what's really at stake. And what's really at stake is our way of life, fundamentally, as human beings. And I first did a dinner at COP21 called The Last Supper, entitled The Last Supper, of all the ingredients that at the time I thought that our kids and grandkids weren't going to be able to have. And this is a long list of like coffee, wine, chocolate. And just right there, it's like, what else do you need to know? Like coffee, wine, and chocolate, we should be like in the streets, like changing this.
Yeah.
But it's a long list: shellfish, crustaceans, nuts of all kinds.
First of all, if we start having a change in temperature, assuming there's not a feedback loop and we get colder environment, not a warmer environment, but let's just say that it keeps on going to a warmer environment. The northern areas of the world, like Canada, the tundra, like Russia, they're going to actually start thawing out. And the actual climate zones that are normally for certain crops will start to move northward. Like, for example, there are climate zones in the United States. Michigan is, depending on what area of Michigan, but Michigan is typically about, I think, a 4 and a 5 per climate zone. All right. This climate zone is going to end up being like Tennessee, to maybe a 6, 7, or an 8. So what is a 4 or 5 right now for Michigan is going to end up in Canada to be a 4 or 5, while in Canada it's like a 1 and a 2. So everything's going to move upward. All right. So things that may be growing in Brazil or Central America will start growing in Texas, the Carolinas, and Louisiana. Everything's going to shift. It's going to shift slowly. It's not going to shift rapidly. So I'm not too worried about chocolate, cocoa beans, coffee. It's just going to be replanted in a different area or wherever the climate zone is. Actually, if you really think about it, there's going to be more virgin land as the tundra starts to thaw out to plant. So I'm not too worried about it. And it's like, Plus, I think there's
Really,
going to be a
if you're
feedback.
a tree, you're in a lot of trouble. Because what we're seeing is a mass migration of plants and animals north and south because of warming. The thing that I got totally wrong, or that's increasingly changed since that dinner 10 years ago, is that it's actually happening right now. This is not a future state. I'll give a couple examples, but I could take up the rest of the time going through different crops. I'll give two sides of the equation. Chocolate, for example, is being decimated. Last year, chocolate prices were up over 200% last year because of extreme heat and drought. And now we are in, one of the chocolate havens of the world. But every bite of chocolate that we eat basically comes from smallholder growers from about 10 degrees of the equator.
It's 5 above and 5 below.
5 above, 5 below. And so that crop, when you project out to the future, most of the areas that are currently growing chocolate and coffee, by the way, is the same, will unlikely be able to support consistent chocolate production, which means those trees have to move, but they don't walk very well. And the implications for those communities and the people who have their whole livelihoods wrapped up in one of the most delicious things one can eat are really at stake. So you can go through wine is moving to the French are buying land in England to make champagne. And things are really messed up when the French are buying land in England to make champagne. That's like emergency alarm bell. Like, what else you got to say? But then we start to get to the big commodities. And when you start to project out to 2040, 2050 and beyond, that's when it starts to get actually pretty scary. I'll just take rice, but we can talk about wheat. We can talk about corn and soy. Rice, depending on where you are in the world, the estimates vary pretty widely. But we're looking at somewhere between a 10 to 40% reduction in average yield. And that doesn't take into account, with extreme weather events, regionally, we're going to see total collapses or large collapses of a harvest year over year. So it's like an overall decline with a lot more volatility and disruption in between. 3.5 billion people rely on rice every day to eat. And so when you start to think about as yields decline, that means prices are going to go up. And we are already dealing with hunger and food insecurity and malnutrition on a level that is completely unacceptable in 2026. That's only going to get much worse. And as you see some dramatic declines, you're going to see forced migration, more political instability, more food insecurity, and conflict as a result. And when you deal with those big commodities, it's on a scale that is really hard, honestly, to comprehend the implications of that. And so if we don't start to do much greater work to reduce the overall footprint of the globe, but also start preparing our food systems to adapt and be much more resilient, we basically have all of our eggs in a couple baskets. Almost everything we eat comes from 12 plants and 5 animals, over 70% of our calories. If you're an investor, you would never just put $1 trillion in a couple stocks and hope it works. We have basically done that for our food system because we've created a system that came out of basically the most stable 10,000 years of weather in the history of the globe. We just got really lucky. For real, it's been super calm compared to the history of the planet. And we've had natural resources of water and soil that have been super plentiful, but now we're entering an age of extreme volatility with nowhere near enough water, and our soil resources have been depleted. And so we have to do a lot of work to prepare the system.
It's an engineering problem. Develop crops that are more resilient in that changing climate zone. If you can't, then create zones where you're going to grow those crops in a different climate zone. Not a big deal. Water, you can desalinate. We're surrounded by water. It is bullshit when someone says that we don't have enough water. We have tons of energy. We have tons of water. We can filter it and turn it into fresh. It's an engineering problem. It can be done. Don't believe what he's saying. If we got all this energy to make digits for AI, we got tons of energy to be able to desalinate.
What investors can do. How do we shift demand towards some sustainable systems?
Back to me.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thinking on you.
So I think So I think it has to start with culture. I spent 6 years in the White House working on food policy. I have to say, in the Obama White House.
You better qualify that.
Very clear.
You better qualify that.
And I ran food policy, and I was also their chef. So I had both sort of sides of the equation. I'll tell one quick story to sort of show what's underpinning this. So I'm running the First Lady's big health campaign. It's like a kind of a big deal. She's like, I want real results, and let's make this happen, and it's gonna better be perfect. But there was a policy in the White House of giving out free soda. It was like the one perk you got. You didn't make very much money, and you worked your butt off all day long, and you couldn't take anything. We took no perks. But from a tradition long ago, you got free soda. But I was like, we can't, it's Michelle's, she's got a huge health issue. I can't give out free soda. We're going to get creamed in the press. So I talked to her, and she's like, yeah, we got to get rid of that. And I was like, okay, cool, we're getting rid of it. So I went and told the sort of cafeteria, it's called the Navy Mess, we got to get rid of the soda. And I tell the chief of staff and the deputy chief of staff, by the way, there's a new policy because we just can't be exposed like this. And they were like, what did you say? Oh, yeah, we can't. So they're like, over my dead body. And they were like, this is who we are. This is my ritual. Like, so every day I get my Coke. You're not taking it away from me. I was like, come on. Like, what are you talking about? You just have to pay for it. It'll be there, but you got to pay for it. Within like 2 days, she had organized the entire West Wing. And as I would walk down the hall, they'd be like, you're not really going to do that, are you? And what I realized is, so then it ended up getting to the president. And he comes in, so I'm looking at him, he's like, hey man, it was like the economy was collapsing, with all this stuff. He's like, hey man, listen, I can't take this one on right now, man. People are freaking out, and like, we gotta let him drink the Coke, okay? But what I realized was that one food product had become a real ritual. It had become what people would do to gather at 3 o'clock, take a little break, do something good for themselves, interact socially with each other. And for some, it was an identity. Like the deputy chief of staff, I cleaned the story up. It was actually a lot more intense with vulgarity. It was really her identity. Like, you never saw her without a can of this. And it was really who she was. And what I realized was that top-down decisions and policies don't work. We are all experts. We all eat multiple times a day. It is who we are. It's how we understand who we are not. It's how we show love to each other and how we show love to our children. And so if you want to change fundamentally what we eat, we have to really change what we value as a culture. And right now, we're not valuing our nourishment. We're not valuing the planet that feeds us. We're not valuing the people who are producing it. And so it's easy to say these policymakers need to change or these companies are bad, but the underpinning that shapes those decisions, we skip over. And that's the hard, slow, difficult work that underpins all the other change. And so I think that's the foundation of it.
Yeah, but
I have an example also about charcoal. We wanted to get rid of charcoal, because of deforestation. And we talked to this community who said, no, our food, then the food we eat here can only be cooked with charcoal. The taste is different. You cannot put it on anything else. So the solution we had to come up with planting trees only for charcoal, so that we'd stop them from cutting down the indigenous trees and planting the eucalyptus, which they could use for, so that they could continue using charcoal food, because for them, that particular food, all matoke in Uganda, where I come from, and only tastes better with charcoal.
I bet it does taste good.
Yeah, I can't do.
It's fantastic. Especially when you put in banana leaves. It's very good.
Beautiful.
I'm getting hungry now.
Yeah.
But it is a bit hard sometimes, Sam, to fight the marketing machine of the foods that, I find myself, I'm such a bad eater. Like, I'm really bad.
Nobody
and
you find that. Nobody.
Thanks,
Nobody find that.
guys. But I really am. I don't know. I eat like a 6-year-old with money. Like, it's not good. But I I genuinely think it's a conspiracy. They're working against me. All the things that are terrible for me, it just tastes so good and they're so addictive. And we had a conversation, Christian, on the way here about, I just had an epiphany when you said foods are meant to fulfill 3 buckets. I should let you say them because I don't even fully see this. This is how much facetious I am right now. I can't even remember what 3 buckets it's supposed to do for me. But it was to feed your brain.
Support your brain.
Support your brain.
Feed your gut.
Feed your gut.
Protect the liver.
And at the same time, now guess how much processed food does that?
0.
Never.
Yeah.
And that's like, that's me. In a Lay's chip
This is the
bag.
reason why. This is the reason why I've been saying for thousands of videos. It's a holistic approach to slow down the aging process. Proper diet, proper exercise, stay away from processed foods, drink filtered water, detoxify your body, do resistance training and cardiovascular training, stretching and balancing, super important. Learn new things, read, write, have some spirituality or mindfulness so you can go into parasympathetic mode, and proper supplementation. When you do that, you're going to slow down the aging process. You just have the sad diet in America with high stress levels and you'll age faster. Pretty simple. Please go to my store, bella-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the magnesium and zinc. This will help to boost up your immune system and help with brain function. Omega-3 will help with cardiovascular health, bring down inflammation, help you to control your lipid profile, reduce plaque formation, and overclotting because it reduces the stickiness of your red blood cells. Lignans soaks up free radicals and brings down inflammation, helps with your immune system and endocrine system. And turmeric brings down inflammation, soaks up free radicals, boosts up that immune system. You stack these together, you're also helping with your cardiovascular health because you're bringing down inflammation, you're soaking up free radicals, and you're helping with brain function because you're reducing the stress on your neuron. Super important to slow down the aging process.
Thank you. I don't know, it's the height. So, we're fighting against a bit of a machine, and maybe then it's that change of culture, but also the collaboration from the industry.
I think that's right. I mean, I think we as advocates trying to make a change have made some real mistakes. Like, we try to say you should eat this way. It has vitamin A and fiber. It's really good for you. And they're like, love, sex, and happiness. They're like, drink this, be the sexy man or woman, be the sexy partner, live a great life. And it's like love, sex, and happiness beats fiber and vitamin B every day.
Yeah.
And what the difference is like we are speaking to people's heads and they're speaking to people's hearts. And it's emotional connection that actually helps lead to changing behavior. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't still do some work to help people understand the relationship to their brain and their gut somewhat. But in the end, if you're not connecting with people in emotion, food is emotional.
Yeah.
Like reminds us of the combination of things that happen in your brain that will most likely make you lead to a different food decision is a memory response plus an emotional one.
Yeah.
So it's like I connect with this and it triggers some sort of recollection.
The holidays, the holiday
That's what will get you to make a different decision. So we have to start getting much more sophisticated and go to people's hearts and connect emotionally because that's how we interact with it.
Good point. And so much so that we ignore the obvious. Like Wes at our panel yesterday, founder of Rewald, was saying to me, what do gorillas eat? If you're trying to build muscle, look at a gorilla. They're not devouring protein all the time. And I was like, oh my God, they're not. Wait, neither elephants or rhinos or all these massive animals. And I'm like, I need to put on muscle. I'm going to, how many grams of chicken and whatever doing. It's just, we ignore the obvious in the world for that emotion. I mean, maybe that's the beauty and catastrophe of humans.
It just needs to be directed in a better way.
Yeah.
I said, first of all, our genomics are totally different than an elephant. Our genomics are totally different than other species. And it is proven that if you don't have enough protein, you're going to have atrophy. If you have a strict vegetarian diet, most people are unhealthy when they do that. Strict, vegan, 100%, most people don't do it right. And so they have deficiencies in certain vitamins, and they have that almost a lost soul look in their face. please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Boomer Boost. This has 68 nutrients to help with multiple systems. It will help with your cardiovascular health. It'll help you to control your blood glucose levels, help with brain function, help you to sleep better, help to build muscle, rev up your energy levels so you have a steady burn of energy with no spiking, and speed up your metabolism so you're going to be able to control your weight. Take this every day. This is a month's supply. You can mix it with soft foods, filtered water, mix it with milk, or mix it in a smoothie, but take it every day. Very powerful, and it'll help to slow down the aging process. You will feel the effects of this with that steady burn of energy and lots of vitality within 72 hours. 72 hours, you'll start feeling the effects of this. When you take this every day, you will slow down the aging process. It's very simple. A scoop a day, every day. And detoxify your body. Take the zeolite, that's going to bind to heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals and allow you to urinate them out within 6 to 8 hours. Take 3 small drops and drink filtered water every day. When you do this, your endocrine system and your immune system will perform better, even your brain function.
The room to some audience questions. But I also want to remind people, and I hope you do have questions, because I think how often do we get to be in a room with these amazing people? But I want to remind people it's for questions, not necessarily for like remarks or introductions.
I'm gonna stop that section of Davos, and I'm gonna go to the interviewing that's taking place with Fink and Elon Musk at Davos.
I'm on Mars, and I'm like, yes, but just not on impact.
That's a good answer. Anyway, we're out of time. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this. And there's so many myths around Elon Musk. I could tell you he's a great friend, and I constantly learn so much from him.
Let me see if I can rewind it a little bit.
And I'm totally inspired by what he has done.
Let's listen in. I'm rewinding a little bit.
Congratulations. Thank you. Good measurement.
Well, we have an incredible team at Tesla. That's the reason.
So I want to get into the meaningful component about technology, the possibilities. I want to talk about AI, robotics, energy, space, and the progress ultimately coming down to engineering discipline, scale, execution. And few people, if not anyone, has the experience and the fortitude to confront these issues head on. Not just the ideas, but the execution across so many different technologies, Elon. And that's why I thought it was important for us to have this dialogue here in Davos. So you're presently building on AI, on robotics, on space, on energy, all at the same time. When you look across those efforts, what do they have in common from an engineering standpoint?
Well, they're all very difficult technology challenges, but the overall goal of my companies is to maximize the future of civilization, like basically maximize the probability that civilization has a great future, and to expand consciousness beyond Earth. So, say SpaceX, for example, that SpaceX is about advancing rocket technology to the point where we can extend life and consciousness beyond Earth, to the moon, to Mars, eventually to other star systems. And I think we should always view consciousness, life as we know it, as precarious and delicate, because to the best of our knowledge, we don't know of life anywhere else. You know, I'm often asked, are there aliens among us? And I'll say that I am one, but
or you're from the future.
They don't believe me.
Okay.
I think if anyone would know if there are aliens among us, it would be me. We have 9,000 satellites up there, and not once have we had to maneuver around an alien spaceship. So like, I don't know. Bottom line is, I think we need to assume that life and consciousness is extremely rare, and it might only be us. And if that's the case, then we need to do everything possible to ensure that the light of consciousness is not extinguished.
Space is big, very big, 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 as Trump would say. All right. The chances of other life forms not existing that are of similar intellect as the humans or far beyond the intellect of the humans, the probability of it is extremely high because of how big space is, how big the universe is. Let's just assume we have just one universe, not a multiverse. All right? So there are other intelligent species out there, 100%. But because space is so large, the probability of them communicating with each other is pretty small. So it may seem to the individual civilizations that are out there in the distance that no one else is out there, but they are. But the amount of space between them is so vast that they're not going to communicate with each other. And even if one society figured out a way to communicate through entanglement of quantum physics, the receiving end may not know. So it doesn't matter. So it's kind of like that Nietzsche thought. If there's no one in the forest and the tree falls, did it really fall? Well, from the perspective of these different species, no other species exists. Even though they do, they just can't communicate because they're too damn far. There's a microcosm example of this. When the world population was really small, just a few thousand, and scattered, did it know that other communities existed? Let's say communities in Europe, the Neanderthal, did they know, at a certain period of time that there were communities in Africa? Probably not. Until there were migrations. But the point that I'm making here is the chances of interspecies communication or contact, super small percentage. I mean, very super rare. Probably will never happen. But that doesn't mean that they don't exist. Just from our perspective, because we can't communicate with them, it seems as though they don't exist.
Because we're effectively, the way I view it is, the image in my mind is of a tiny candle in a vast darkness, tiny candle of consciousness that could easily go out. And that's why it's important to make life multiplanetary, such that if there is a natural disaster or man-made disaster on Earth, that consciousness continues. That's the purpose of SpaceX. Tesla is obviously about sustainable technology, and also at this point we've sort of added to our mission sustainable abundance. So with robotics and AI, this is really the path to abundance for all. If you say, people often talk about solving global poverty, or essentially how do we give everyone a very high standard of living. I think the only way to do this is AI and robotics, which doesn't mean that it is without its issues. I mean, we need to be very careful with AI. We need to be very careful with robotics. We don't want to find ourselves in a James Cameron movie, Terminator. He's got great movies, love his movies, but we don't want to be in Terminator, obviously. If you have ubiquitous AI that is essentially free or close to it, and ubiquitous robotics, then you will have an explosion in the global economy, an expansion in the global economy that's truly beyond all precedent.
Elon, can that expansion be broad?
Yes.
Or is it narrow? And how can it be created? How can it broaden the global economy?
Yeah, it's going
to be Star Wars.
If you have a large number of humanoid robots, the economic output is the average productivity per robot times the number of robots, right? And actually, my prediction is in the benign scenario.
This is where Elon is like a little crazy. What are human beings going to do if all the robots are doing all the jobs? And let's say you have debt. How are you going to pay your mortgage? What happens? The robots want life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Sure. That will the robots will actually make so many robots and AI that they will actually saturate all human needs. Meaning you won't be able to even think of something to ask the robot for at a certain point. Like there will be such an abundance of goods and services because my prediction is that there'll be more robots than people. So,
but how do you then have human purpose?
Yeah,
and that is
exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, nothing's perfect. Yeah. It is a net.
It's going to destroy the economy if all the robots have the jobs. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the C60. This is 1,000 times stronger than vitamin C. Take a teaspoon a day every day. You can get it in avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil, and MCT coconut oil. A 2-ounce, a 4-ounce, or an 8-ounce configuration. Take a teaspoon a day. It's going to soak up free radicals, reduce stress in the cell. Your tissues and your organ systems are going to perform better. Your immune system will perform better. Your endocrine system will be better. Your cardiovascular health will improve. You're going to reduce plaque formation because you're soaking up those free radicals at the bloodstream level. Your neurons will perform better because you're reducing stress on the neuron. You're soaking up the free radicals, improving the mitochondrial health of the neurons, so you have more ATP. You need lots of ATP to create those neurotransmitters. And when you have better cognition, you're going to think faster. You're going to have better memory. Take C60 every day, a teaspoon a day. You can get it in a 2-ounce, a 4-ounce, or an 8-ounce configuration. And I also have a new product called Collagen. Collagen can be taken with collagen, or you can take it separately. But Collagen, what this does, is it helps to remodel your joints that are sore or starting to degrade because you're getting older. What it does is it helps to remodel the joint using collagen 2 and ACAN. ACAN also helps with the cushioning of the joint. Now, collagen also inhibits MMP3 and MMP13 enzymes. Those enzymes break down your joint, so you want to inhibit them. So this will help to inhibit them. It'll also help to reduce the pain that you have by inhibiting EP4. All right. This will also help to recruit chondroitin and glucosamine. Glucosamine helps with the cartilage remodeling and the health of your joint, and chondroitin will help with the cushioning. So this will help to rebuild the joint. So please go to my store and get the collagen if you have problems with your shoulder or your elbows or your knees or ankles, whatever, your hands. If you have problems with your joint, you might want to try this and you're going to start feeling relief. All right. So, and this helps to remodel the joint. You could stack this with the collagen, and the collagen will be the building blocks, additional building blocks to help to remodel the joint. So please go to my store and get the collagen. And you can stack it with the collagen. And go to my store and get the lozenges and drops. You can get the Manuka honey lozenges. I also have a new version, the orange splash, which is vitamin C lozenges. They're great for the winter season and the allergy season. And I also have structural nano silver drops in blueberry, honey and lemon, and cherry flavor. So please go to my store and get the drops and the lozenges. Very high quality, structural nano silver. Use them for the winter season and the allergy season. Mitigate that sore throat right away. And it'll also help to neutralize and improve your oral cavity health.
Like you can't have both. You can't have work that has to be done and amazing abundance for all. Because if it's work that has to be done, then you and only some people can do it, then you can't have abundance.
Then it's narrow.
It's narrow, yeah. Exactly. So, but if you have billions of humanoid robots, and I think there will be, I think everyone on Earth is going to have one and going to want one, because who wouldn't want a robot to, assuming it's very safe, watch over your kids, take care of your pets. If you have elderly parents, a lot of friends of mine said they have elderly parents. It's very difficult to take care of them.
Expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Right, but if you're a corporation and you need a bunch of accountants, why don't you just hire R2D2? Eventually, you'll get to a point where you're decoupling human labor and capital. And when you do that, what do people do? How do they pay their debts? How do they pay their mortgage? Doesn't make sense. It seems like his utopian world doesn't explain, oh, you're going to just have lots of robots doing things. Really? Okay. But there's a certain point where the robots will do all the jobs. What do people do? The robots are the farmers. The robots are working in the factory. The robots are doing the accounting. The robots are cooking. And what do we do? And his answer is that we're just going to get the AI dividend. We're going to have universal income in the AI dividend. Well, what about this disparity when it reaches a critical mass and there's lots of robots out there, but no humans that are working? All right. They're not employed. But you have this disparity between the billionaires or trillionaires or 100 trillionaires or whatever, zillionaires, and the universal income. So the haves and the have-nots is going to divide even more. So I would really, if he starts saying all the rich people are going to lose all their money, and that everyone's going to be at some sort of utopic equal level, then maybe what he's saying is starting to make sense. But I don't think that's what he's saying. There's going to be a lot of rich people. There's going to be a small group that have a lot of money, and the most of the masses will be peasants and have no means to get out of their hell. His dream of this Star Wars stuff doesn't make sense to me, because human labor and capital will decouple.
People to take care of not enough young people to take care of the old people, right? So if you had a robot that could take care of and protect an elderly parents, I think
this is what he's talking about is the transition of using these humanoid robots. And I agree, transition use will improve the economy, make us more productive, yada, yada. But once corporate America decides, human accountants, no, R2D2, yes, and lots of other companies do the same thing across all different industries, all different job groups, what do humans do? He can't answer the question. He can't answer the question. And what about all the people that have amassed, like himself, huge swaths of money? What happens with them once all the jobs are gone? Something doesn't make sense.
Big down. And I think we will have those things. So, and overall, I'm very optimistic about the future. I think we're headed for a future of amazing abundance, which is very cool.
In the transition period.
And definitely, we are in the most interesting time in history. I think there's a more interesting time in history.
Can you and I reverse aging in this new history, or are we going to see it?
I haven't put much time into the aging stuff. I do think it is a very solvable problem. Like you can do it. I think when we figure out what causes aging, I think we'll find it's incredibly obvious. It's not a subtle thing. The reason I say it's not a subtle thing is because all the cells in your body, with some pretty much age at the same rate. I've never seen someone with an old left arm and a young right arm ever in my life. Why is that?
He's wrong. He's wrong. Your heart can age faster than your liver. Your brain can age faster than, let's say, your spleen. If you take biopsies of different tissues, you will notice that your metallization is different. That means that your tissues are different. They have different ages. And this is for most people. Now, that age may be plus or minus 5, plus or minus 10. If you don't take care of your body, or if you have some sort of genetic disorder, it can be as much as plus or minus 30, depending on your age. But the point here is that your genes, your tissues, your organ systems age at different rates. So he doesn't even know what he's talking about. If you did a biopsy, there's some tissues that probably are at 20 years of age in terms of methylation or telomere length. There's multiple ways of looking at this. Either the metabolism of the tissue, the telomere lengths, or the epigenetic profile relative to a younger profile, whatever method you have. But I probably have certain tissues that are at a 20-year-old level. I probably have some tissues that are at a 50-year-old level. There's some tissues that are 40 or 30. Maybe some tissues are at 60. The point here is that everyone has a big range. Now, if you can slow down the methylation process, then you're more on the average of being at the younger end of the spectrum than the older end of the spectrum. That's the whole point of slowing the aging process. Reduce the methylation, reduce the shrinking of the telomeres. And when you do that and you're revving up your metabolism and you have more energy, then you're going to be slowing down the aging process. So he doesn't even understand what he's talking about. If you have poor blood flow in one area, if you have poor blood perfusion in, let's say, your right arm compared to your left arm, you're going to age differently. You can see this in poor perfusion with lower extremities with the elderly. Their feet are literally aging faster than other parts of their body because of poor blood flow. So he doesn't know what he's fucking talking about. Meanwhile, Fink, dipshit, doesn't even check him on it. It's just common sense.
That means that there must be a clock, a synchronizing clock, right, that is synchronizing across 35 trillion cells in your body.
There is a momentum of age. through methylation and through telomere lengths, there's a momentum that takes place. So it's in a range and it's moving in a certain direction. All right? But different tissues have different growth rates for aging. Different aging rates, I'll call that. So different tissues have different rates, but there's a momentum, right? So you're going to be aging, right? But in some tissues, you're aging slower than other tissues. If you're more holistic, apply the holistic approach, and you can target these other systems, you will slow down the aging process with that, and so the momentum will start to come down. If you don't, then the momentum of aging starts to go up. All right? So you're going to be aging no matter what you do. But the question is, do you age fast or do you age with a slower slope, a lower slope, a slower aging process? So instead of aging to 80, and die, you may actually age to 120 and then die. All right? So what he's saying is synchronized. It's not synchronized. It's a momentum that's taking place. They're not synchronized. Now, there is feedback loops that could help slow down the aging process or help or speed up the aging process, slow it down or speed it up based on these feedback loops. Right? Poor perfusion or bad cardiovascular health will lead to other organ systems to fail too. But that's not synchronized. They have a network. It's a network. It's more of a network kind of system than some sort of synchronized clock. He's wrong on this.
There is some benefit to that, by the way. It's like there's a reason why we don't actually have a longer lifespan, because if people do live for a very long time, I think there's some risk of an ossification of society, of things just getting kind of locked in place, it just may become stultifying, just not lack vibrant.
If you live for 5, 6, 1,000 years, don't you think that we'd be able to have a faster means of planetary discovery for colonization, as he's saying here?
But that said, do I think we'll figure out ways to extend life and
we already have,
and maybe even reverse aging? I think that's highly likely.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So in the future that you talk about, the AI models, autonomous machines, rockets, depends on massive increases in compute, massive increases in energy, expensive energy, manufacturing scale. What are the bottlenecks to get there? And then once again, with all that expenditures, again, how can we make sure that it's broad, not narrow?
I just think the natural thing is it's going to be very broad because AI companies will seek as many customers as they possibly can, and the cost of AI is already very low, and it's plummeting every year. I mean, the cost of AI is almost meaningfully changing on a month-to-month basis.
There's open models now everywhere. Yeah.
Yes, there's open models. And the open models only lag. They're maybe a year behind,
right?
The sort of closed models. So I think the AI companies will seek as many customers as possible, which means they'll provide AI to the world.
But the cost of getting to there, the compute, the chips, the fab, the powering, that to me, what are the those are huge.
The limiting factor. Yeah, I think the limiting factor for AI deployment is fundamentally electrical power.
It's just like it's energy.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing the rate of AI chip production increase exponentially, but the rate of electricity being brought online is
4% a year.
Yeah.
Max.
Yeah. It's clear that we're very soon, maybe even later this year, we'll be producing more chips than we can turn on. But except for China. China's growth in electricity is tremendous.
They're building 100 gigawatts of nuclear as we speak.
Actually, solar is the biggest thing in China. So I believe China's production capacity on solar is 1,500 gigawatts a year, and they're deploying over 1,000 gigawatts a year of solar. Now, for continuous solar load, you divide that by roughly, I don't know, 4 or 5. Call it that's around 250 gigawatts of steady state power paired with batteries. And that's a very big number. That's half of the average power usage in the US.
Right.
So US power usage on average is 500 gigawatts. China, just in solar, in solar that can provide steady state power, and batteries can do half of the U.S. electricity output per year just for solar. Solar is by far the biggest source of energy. And actually, when you look beyond, or even on Earth, but certainly beyond Earth, the sun rounds up to 100% of all energy. This is an important thing to consider. So the sun is 99.8% of the mass of the solar system. Jupiter is about 0.1%, and everything else is miscellaneous. Now, even if you were to burn Jupiter in a thermonuclear reactor, the amount of energy produced by the sun would still round up to 100%, because Jupiter is only 0.1%. If you teleported 3 more Jupiters into our solar system, and burnt 3 more Jupiters and everything else in the solar system, the sun's energy would still round up to 100%. So it's really all about the sun. And that's why one of the things we'll be doing with SpaceX within a few years is launching solar-powered AI satellites. Right. Because the space is really the source of immense power. And then you don't need to take up any room on Earth. There's so much room in space, and you can scale to enormous. You can scale to, I think, ultimately hundreds of terawatts a year.
You and I have had these conversations before, but why don't you tell the audience what would it take for the United States, and what type of geography would it take to have that solar field to electrify the United States? And then let me ask a question, why aren't we doing it?
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess a rough way to think about it is 100 miles by 100 miles, or call it 160 kilometers by 160 kilometers of solar is enough to power the entire United States. So the 100 mile by 100 mile area is, I mean, you could take basically a small corner of Utah, Nevada, New Mexico. Obviously, we wouldn't want it all in one place, but it's a very small percentage of the area of the U.S. to generate all of the electricity that the U.S. uses. And the same is true, actually. I mean, for Europe, you could take relatively unpopulated areas of, say, Spain and Sicily, and generate all of the electricity power that Europe needs.
Why don't you think that there's a movement towards that here and in the United States?
Well, there is.
As it is in China.
Well, unfortunately, in the U.S., the tariff barriers for solar are extremely high, and that makes the economics of deploying solar so artificially high, because China makes almost all the solar.
What would it take for Europe or the U.S. to build it commercially, if it's that scale?
if you're going to have at scale, you're going to have large swaths of your land, a solar field, and you can't farm. So until you can use paints and shingles on roofs or some sort of concrete that can absorb energy, store it from the sun, it's not doable. Do you want large swaths of your land that could be used for farming to generating electricity? So it's just not, and it doesn't even look nice. And then what about leakage? Because you have these toxic materials that are in the solar panel. What happens when they break? What happens when they age and they start leaking into the ground? So what used to be a farm to make corn can no longer be used because you have a gigantic leak issue with these metals. Bad idea. Bad idea. And we don't even know how much oil we have or natural gas. Is it replenished or is it not? The geologists don't know. They don't know. We may have these large plumes. We may have had biotic generated oil and non-biotic generated oil. So in shallow seas, plankton accumulating, that may have been one way of doing it, but not maybe the only way. And then there's abiotic, where you have certain hydrocarbons that are being cooked, carbon and hydrogens being cooked in the mantle of the earth that will lead to large reservoirs of oil and natural gas. We don't know. There's some theories out there that are suggesting that is the case. All right? We may be literally on a sea of oil and we'll never use it all. We don't know. It's possible. We have a long ways to go before solar power is really prime time, where it meets aesthetic issues, allows for arable land. We're not there yet.
Yeah, I think well, I can tell you what we're going to do, SpaceX and Tesla is we're building up large scale solar. Right. So the SpaceX and Tesla teams both separately are working to build to 100 gigawatts a year of solar power in the U.S. Of manufactured solar power.
Now, having industries producing solar, because they have these plants and they have the solar panels on the building, right? That makes a lot of sense to me. All right. Your manufacturing is using the power, so it's not pulling from the consumer grid. That makes a lot of sense. But to have 1,000 acres of solar panels on land that could have been farmed, that's such a smart idea. Now, what about in the middle of the desert? Well, that makes sense. But most of the United States is not desert. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Gladiator Barley. This will help to build muscle, bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals, and detoxify your body. Do some resistance training. You're going to build some muscle. And when you also take this every day, you're helping your cardiovascular health, your immune system, and your endocrine system, even your brain function, because you're soaking up free radicals and you're bringing down that inflammation and detoxifying your body. When you do that regularly, you're going to slow down the aging process. Make sure you do some resistance training, especially back muscles. Myotrol. This will help with gene expression. You can take this separately or you can stack it with the Gladiator Barley. But Myotrol is especially important for people that are 40 years of age or older to be able to build muscle. It helps with gene expression. This has polyphenols flavonoids, and lignans to help with the gene expression so you can build muscle. Do some resistance training. Take the Myotrol. This will also help the health of your mitochondria. So you have the energy to maintain and build that muscle. So you're reducing atrophy. Super important. Now, if you're younger or older and you're an athlete, you will increase your performance in your sport by taking Myotrol. And again, stacking it together is the best option because this will help with the gene expression to build muscle. This has the ingredients to build that muscle because it has this is a powder that has protein in it. All right. And lots of other micronutrients. But the point here is that this also will bring down inflammation so you recover quicker after a workout and soak up free radicals and detoxify your body so you get all these other positive externalities like a better immune system, better endocrine system, better brain function, better cardiovascular health. So please go to my store, get the Myotrol, get the Gladiator Barley for the best stack. That's the end of my broadcast. I'm getting tired of listening to Elon Musk. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.